Welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings Deep in Mendham. Okay, that might work. Anyway, not really happenings though. Okay, some other word will have to be more appropriate, I think. So anyway, week in review thing. Start off that way anyway. So I did fix the RSS feed for this podcast. So you probably know that if you're listening to it. Maybe. But anyway, so you can go to the link of the website. Well, the web page. That is whatever, the website. And that feed should work now. But the feed that'll work is do not God. Oh no, don't do that, Gary. See, I had to change the name because of the whole GoDaddy crap. Well, anyway, and yeah, having donotgo.com as a main site name isn't really ideal. But their forwarding is so bad that if I give some other name, it might not forward properly, so there's no point. But anyway, so it's donotgo.com, DNG, slash, donotgo.com slash, yes, that's correct, dng.xml. Yes, so if you type that into one of those podcaster things or something, as a remote whatever thing, RSS feed, then you should get the feed. It should work, and the podcast should show up in your whatever, and everything should be just wonderful and fun. So anyway, sooner or later I intend to get it into iTunes or whatever, and such, and whatever places it needs submitting to, I suppose I should submit it to, but I'm just not really in the mood for that. But anyway, so anyway, it's fixed. It's all, it's just a fucking, the irritating thing was this, you expect this kind of stuff in computer code where, you just can't make a mistake. You can't just have an extra quote somewhere, the thing won't work. It's very strict, but you really don't expect it in a tag language for an XML file. So yeah, there was an extra set of quotes, and that was what was breaking the feed, which, I just didn't think that it was that strict, and so I just didn't go looking for something that stupid. So anyway, so it's like the browser wasn't that strict, so it worked on Firefox, because it said, I don't care if there's extra quotes, I don't pay any attention to that shit. And, but the other feed, whatever they call them, there's a word for them. It's this word thing, it's really tough for me. Just can't pull them out like I used to. Phasers? No. Well, they call them something. Anyway, you don't need to know. I don't need to know. But anyway, they do call them something. But anyway, obviously they were more strict in their interpretation. Well, you didn't need all this explanation, so fuck it. But who wants to get to reality, right? The stuff that does matter is just so depressing. This whole election thing is just so depressing. And so, yeah, there wasn't much this week in terms of videos. The Piro thing, I don't think Piro's even watched any of my videos on the subject of this whatever we're doing thing. Which I did make a web, I think it's, Android friendly, mobile kind of friendly website. Sort of have to know how it works. You click on, what you would press on these sections to pop the things open, and you can't see this, but you pod people. But, it's kind of like the way it works, and, I'll be adding features and blah, 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 but these things sort of work. The alarm clock works, and you can add a comment, and that works, and it has a little index that'll have all the websites listed here that are related to whatever, Do Not God Enterprises Inc. and such. So, but I sort of like it. And Uh, you know, so I'll have to add subjects now. I put the little pitch part on here, so you can read the pitch part. That's about it. And the whatever thing, I'll have to put links so people can use it on other websites, which is really part of its functionality. Is it's kind of a nice tool for communicating across the internet and such. But anyway, no one's really ever properly used it for that purpose. But anyway, I don't know. There's another video where I have to explain everything and no one's going to watch the explanation video, so there's no real point. But anyway, I am thinking, I had a thought. Okay, I first thought of it for the physics thing, but then I just thought of it for doing, videos for this channel that might be interesting. Is this idea of maybe doing a Patreon or some sort of Kickstarter, or just pretending I'm doing a Kickstarter and just say, email me with a pledge or whatever, and then I assume half of you will be lying, and so I raise a certain amount and I just have to verify, you don't give any money until the deed actually gets done, kind of thing, that whole idea. But I was thinking that idea of just paying people to be interviewed, I would like to do that for the physics thing. So I was just sort of thinking, if I could raise $5,000, I could probably seduce, one of these Lawrence Krauss types, because they got to pay bills and shit, and they don't mind taking a trip to New York and stopping by here for a couple of hours. They could probably do some business in New York. They like a 2-day trip kind of thing, blah blah blah, and they pick up a few $1,000 for their trouble. I think it's probably doable. And so I put together a list of the talking heads of physics. Their names probably. Degrassi, Tyson, Kaku, all those. He's always looking for some money. So he's probably, for a day trip, he'd probably go for it for $5,000. Who knows? I'm just saying it might be doable. I mean, he's in New York a lot anyway, the Kaku guy, I think. So, this wouldn't be too far out of his way. And, for a couple of hours. And, it might be, you could submit some questions also, so your questions could get answered and all that kind of crap. And, I'm a pretty good conversation kind of person in terms of having deep thoughts or interesting blah 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 that I could throw at somebody and all that kind of crap. And so that could be sort of, I mean, it seems like this might be sort of kind of doable, but yeah, it's just being able to reach enough people who can, contribute $20 for, to get up to enough money. And I just don't know if Kickstarter even helps with that in any way. I mean, I don't know how their popularity engine works, whether they really do provide any, whether you have to bring an audience or whether you'll get one for free. Something like that. But, then you got to pay them the 5%, and, that's not terrible. I mean, you're going to lose the 3% or whatever to PayPal, and then you got to lose the 5% to them. And, it starts to get into real money. Well, real money by my standards. But if it raises 10,000 instead of 1,000, then yeah, it's probably worth paying the fee. So I guess I should try one just to see. I mean, it doesn't cost anything to fail. So yeah, I just don't like the whole. It's a little too rackety, but who knows? I should follow through on that one. So maybe try the physics thing first, but it might be cool to get like, get an interview with Sam Harris or something. That would be, that could be pretty interesting. And if I think of some of the other people worth talking to, I could like that. in terms of an idea, I think it could be fruitful. Yeah, even some politicians, like, Bernie Sanders or something. Yeah, it'd be good to get a, just to probe them a bit and see, what they're really made out of, because you really don't get much of that. Not that they'd let you know anyway, right? They're always going to be evasive, but I don't know. I mean, it would have been really nice if, Jack Kevorkian was still alive, and it'd be really nice to have had a conversation with Jack Kevorkian. So I'm just saying there might be something, possible. I hate the idea of it. I hate the whole idea that you have to, it's this whole popularity thing, plus you got to pay people. I mean, it's just also kind of stinky. That this is how the system works, It's, yeah, I don't like it. Sorry, smoking or vaping or whatever. Yeah, I don't need to show anything, I don't think. So, yeah, no real excuse for that. Alright, so the other thing was the Thunderfoot thing. I guess I'll just point out that Irina, Europina or something, yeah, whatever, she hadn't made a video in a while. She's just so, she's got that thing. She's got the thing, and she just, she's just captivating. At least it works on me anyway. So I'll leave a link, just to her new video, and even when she's just talking shit, it's just lovely. You just can't not be interested somehow. So anyway, just she just has a. Yeah, sorry, you might not see it, but to me it's there. You're just, it's magic power kind of thing, or whatever that is. So, anyway, enough of that. So the other thing was the Thunderfoot video, and just the whole subject of the Thunderfoot thing, the phenomenon of this hostility towards, there's some people saying things on the internet, about feminism and about women, and somehow saying things is violating men in some way. Just, and it's just kind of, I think, a little bit ridiculous. I mean, obviously people manipulate statistics for all kinds of personal reasons, and there's some women who have been profoundly hurt by men and they have an attitude, and then there's men who have been profoundly hurt by women and they have an attitude, and it's like they're being the poster child. These attitude people are the poster child for the two positions, and making both positions look ridiculous. And so then if you say, look, I'm for the thing in general, I'm for this idea that women have been pigeonholed, they've been profiled, they've been, woman driver, women are silly, just show them some, sprinkle some glitter in front of them and you get them to do anything, you can make all these kinds of jokes. But obviously that's changing, in kind of dramatic ways that, women have proved themselves. I mean, the Ann Coulters of the world or something, these, women have demonstrated that they can get into the game and fight like a man. They can play like a man. And that was demonstrated even hundreds of years ago with lots of notable, women, when they were given the freedom to be thinkers and to be doers, they were quite competent. There's no structural impediment in any kind of substantial way, but there's always going to be some difference in the sense that women face different challenges than men do in getting through their life without being horrifically depressed. The funny thing is that, a lot of these scientist types, I was reading about the Huygens guy, and apparently he, even though he was, rich, incredibly, privileged, had bouts of pretty severe depression, as did many of the rich. I mean, it's just kind of funny, and from my perspective, that maybe they would have felt better if they did something a little more constructive with their money than buy clothes. But anyway, that's a whole separate subject. But yeah, it's a little, women are facing, biological difference. Where a man can never really understand a woman, and a woman never is going to understand a man, and blah, blah, blah. So we can't really understand how challenging it is to wake up every day, or to face what scares you and all that kind of stuff, because different things are triggering, or triggering emotional responses in terms of ego and pride and these different things that we live for. And yeah, obviously there's a difference between men and women in the sense they have different chemicals, hormones, streaming through their brain, which is the same as a drug. And so we're just on a different drug, essentially, and it gives us a different disposition. I could argue that I have some typical male tension and angst. That would be, you could describe as the kind of angst that you see in the other mammal species out there in the wild. And where, the females are this kind of durable animal, they kind of go with the flow, caregiver-y thing, all that kind of stuff. And they're triggered and very, they can be incredibly violent and, aggressive, in the defense of, their cubs, so to speak, that kind of thing. You don't want to mess with one, like a bear with cubs, right? I mean, it's like, just, you're better off running into a bigger male than you are a female defending cubs, kind of a thing. But I'm just saying that this is the reality. So now, if I state that I understand that difference, and I understand that our society has been run by people on one drug, the males, and they have, over the course of history, been very unfair to anything not running their chemistry, not playing the game they're playing. And that all is changing in terms of our understanding of the truth, but it really hasn't changed in some of the reactive, sensual elements. And so there's still that profiling triggers. There's still those things that just we haven't grown out of, our bigotries and our sense of them being the aliens, and their alienness. So, but just saying that, all of a sudden that means, I have to be thrown into a category of person who believes a whole bunch of truther theories about conspiracies and this and that and all this other stuff, and I don't need that baggage, and I'm not arguing that entire philosophy. So it's like believing in Jesus and being a Protestant or a Catholic or a this or a that. I'll just say I'm accepting the concept and say, the general story, but these specific versions of the story aren't my version. Somebody can tell the Three Pigs story, and besides having, different kinds of houses that the pigs made, they could also have different clothes and different lifestyle. The straw pig was, screwed hookers, and the brick house pig, had a wife and 3 kids and smoked a peep. You can make all kinds of, put all detail into it, but that doesn't mean it's a different story. It just means you have a version of it that's very different. But the fundamental story is the same, and the part that matters, I guess is the point I'm getting to. The part that matters is the straw and the sticks and the bricks. The part that matters is the theme of, do it right the first time. Don't underdo things that need to be well done, or whatever. That's the theme, and the theme, in my opinion, in feminism, is recognizing, having a sensitivity to the standing condition, and just like having between whites and blacks, having a sensitivity to the fact that it's difficult living in a country where you're a minority, and where, say, in the past anyway, all the television was white television. Okay, it had white hormones and it had white culture, and that's going to have an effect on people who have to grow up and integrate in that system. It's going to create identity issues, and in some people resentments, and other people insecurities, and just having an awareness of that is, I think, all that's required. I mean, you don't necessarily have to perform perfectly in terms of your own instinct to profile or pigeonhole or make assumptions. You just have to be conscious of the fact that you're capable of being unfair, and it's best not to be, and there is a reason things are the way they are, and those reasons aren't their fault, so to speak. These individuals didn't create the circumstance. The circumstance has been created by 400 years of a kind of a bad relationship in America between whites and blacks. And that bad relationship has affected both in negative ways. And what you're carrying as a discomfort or attitude isn't necessarily something that is reflective of something real. It's only reflective of your personal circumstance and conditioning, and you might be able to understand that not everybody has to have that conditioning, that conditioning isn't vital to accurate perception of reality, that you really don't need to feel your discomfort, kind of a thing. Well, anyway, so the real point is that, yes, I would argue that there are circumstances where it's legitimate to argue that some things just aren't worth trying to fix. It just isn't. And we may be at that point, and that's why, America is going to be in big trouble, because the effort to fix it is going to require so much from one side in terms of turning their cheeks 7 times, 70 times. That just can't happen. Like the Israelis and the Palestinians or something. I mean, it's going to get to a point where it goes too far, and it's just not going to be reclamatable. And maybe we're past some point of reclamation in terms of the cultures diverging and lacking any will to indulge, tolerate the crimes, quote unquote, of the others. And so yeah, it's not good. It's and this gets us into this whole immigration thing. So this is the only reason why all these people that I'm almost going to put the misogynist types in the Trump camp. These lazy people, as I see it. And Trump's just a vacuous, nothing candidate, just the most empty suit there ever has existed, if it isn't for the immigration subject. You take that away and Trump carries nothing, but some, refried version of Reaganomics. Let's give the richest people in the country a tax break. The one the one group who has done very well over the last 40 years, those are the people he thinks we need to help ourselves. If we help the people who are in the best shape, somehow that's going to help the people in the worst shape. I mean, to be able to sell something that's stupid again, you're just saying that, yes, idiocracy must have won because people have to be an idiot. I mean, 50% of the population must be sickeningly idiotic or insanely bigoted. Just so insanely bigoted that they think Donald Trump, first of all, has any plan to really fix anything except waste a bunch of money on walls and shit, and that this problem can't get fixed in the current democracy because the current democracy is a sellout democracy and both parties have sold out to this corporate agenda, and that's just the way it is. I mean, Trump can't, people think Trump can fix this by saying, we're just not going to let jobs go to Mexico. Well, then they won't exist as jobs because you're not going to have any choice. I mean, unless you want to have people work for $5 an hour in America with no benefits, it won't work. It won't be competitive. You won't sell it on the international market, so you'll only be selling the product to other people in America, and you'll be selling a more expensive product, and the selfish Americans are going to start saying, why am I paying twice as much for everything? I'm paying twice as much as they're paying in Europe. You don't think people are going to start going to Europe just to buy their iPad or to buy some other technology because it's way too expensive to buy it in America? You don't think that'll happen? They'll just go to Canada and buy the half price better version because we're not going to make it better, because we're not going to be able to have the improvements in the product that take place because of the exploitation of the desperation labor. I mean, there's us saying we're not going to invest in China doesn't mean somebody else isn't going to invest in China. It's just a fact. So somebody else will make the product there. And that's a fact, but it's not a fact that we have to embrace, but you can't fight it with Trump notions of let's just brick off our borders and pretend we're going to live the same lifestyle, we're going to have the same technological progress, isolated, because we're not. So I mean, the game really is to improve the acceptable wage in the world to fix the wages in America. So there's probably no other way to do it. You're sort of, the lifeboats are in a sense tied to each other now. So as much as you'd like to say, the one full of Asian people or the one full of Pakistanis or the one full of some other kind of person, as much as you'd like to say those lifeboats are on their own, the truth is the boats are now tied together, and if one goes down, they all go down kind of thing. It's just not the same world, and these people have to grow up. So anyway, so the point is the Thunderfooters just remind me of that same kind of, just give me the simple, crude, dumbass critique of the world. And yes, of course, his science videos are fine in a sense. But, like I said, I'd say his targets are always low fruit. And he doesn't challenge ideas and concepts, even philosophy, that would challenge him. He should probably get into subjects a little broader than the ones he covers, like, AI. I've covered some of them. Vegetarianism, the whole idea of social engineering, the whole idea that a civilization requires. Well, see, he has pointed that out a few times. So in some videos, I give him credit that he's made arguments that are opposed to things like anarchy or something. So he has made a point that you're not going to win with that strategy. So he's at least applied a little bit of logic to those kind of subjects. But he does evade most of them now, and most of what he's doing is just buffooning things that are really stupid. And I don't know if that's terribly productive. It's kind of like the Ken Wheeler guy, the photographer guy. I'm arguing some of his physics. It'd be sort of like me just spending every video just mocking him for being morbidly obese, and yet arguing about how everybody should get concerned because some girl on the internet is morbidly skinny. I mean, there's, you could make the logical, or you could make a statistical argument that you're less likely to die eating insufficiently than you are to die excessively eating. That we are designed essentially to function quite well on very little, and we're not designed to function very well on way too much. It might be a decent enough way to say it. Alright, so this is all very preachy. Yeah, so anyway, I don't know if there's anything else I have to say about the Thunderfoot thing. It'd be nice to, like I said, to have a real stand-up argument rather than just be quote mined for my worst arguments possible. The ad hominem arguments that are a tiny percentage of the arguments I make. And it'd be nice to be able to make the more complete argument in defense of a position that he doesn't feel the need to deal with. Even dealing with my critiques of his statements, I don't think we're going to be getting any explanation for why it's right for him to suggest to women that they need to not incite rape. That's somehow a sensible thing to say in America. In a progressive, non-religious, non-moralitarian kind of society, a woman should be as free as a man to be sexually suggestive without any fear of being trespassed on, like somehow that gives anybody a right to take anything. I mean, that's just for somebody living in a secular country who's not some sort of crazy religious fanatic. That's just really bad preaching. To be preaching, women don't have a right to exercise the same sexual liberality that a man does. That's just bullshit. Crazy bullshit, and he should account for it. Apologize for it, because that's all he can do is apologize for the stupidity of it. Just as he can't do anything but apologize for the stupidity of suggesting that philosophies like atheism or vegetarianism or antinatalism, if people in those categories were factually, statistically less likely to breed, that somehow their philosophy will die because they're not breeding it. That's just stupid. And he should say it, should admit, should fess up, say, yeah, that was a dumb thing to say. But anyway, that's not going to happen. Alright, so this is, I'm sorry. There's no point in apologizing. Who knew where I was going? I didn't know where I was going with this, so I ended up getting kind of serious. And, this is supposed to be the week in review where I just say, yeah, I walked around naked and didn't accomplish nearly enough, and, yeah, my house is a mess still. Yeah, so I did something else instead. So, just because it is the whole Trump thing, is the end of the world is almost here, 3 more days till doom, till the earth catches fire. This ominous cancer hanging over our heads, the diagnosis of, you are just totally fucked now. You live in a country of absolutely, now proven to be, idiots. And that's just going to be... I already lived through it once with Reagan. I mean, when Reagan got elected, it was just like, oh, you just knew this is the beginning of the end. And in fact, it sort of was. So it was a realistic lament. Yeah, it was... that was the... driving to work. The next day was just so depressing. So you just... it's just the world had now changed into this me first asshole. And Carter was to blame in a sense, and this is Obama's big failure is the fact that he did it so badly that he got Trump elected. And the Democratic Party ought to learn from that these candidates, these capitalist candidates, are not going to be good for their party. It's going to ruin it. So they got to get rid of these blue dog, whatever they are, these fucking rich man friendly candidates, and warmongers on to boot to make it even worse. Complete sellouts, and you got to start running candidates that have a little bit more of the vision thing. And I don't think Bernie Sanders was the man. It's got to be somebody better. But anyway, yes, that's enough of that commentary. So I'll probably do the Stefan Molyneux thing for the second half of this, and we'll call it a podcast once I do that. But I guess it won't be one until I do that. I want to do more segments and break things into more regular continuity, but wanting and doing, not always the same. Not always a straight line between those two things. So you're going to get what you get until you get something else. But I'm thinking all the time anyway. I mean, I know it might not look like I'm thinking, but I am thinking all the time. I'm back. Yes, I figured you knew that. Well, you know it now. So we're going to do a little Stefan Molyneux, I guess. And these all don't look very interesting, so we're going to pick this, the article about Trump nobody will publish, rebutted. Right. Yeah, he's such a great guy.
Hi everybody, Stefan Molyneux from Freedom Main Radio. I hope you're doing well.
Hey,
It's been a while since we did an article review. Well,
until you started yelling at me, I was doing okay. I have to set an alarm for I'm baking some bread. So I use my tool there. You see, there's a tool, and minus 40 might be good, and plus 20. Whoops, minus up 45, and then down 20 should do it. There we go, 24 minutes sounds about right. I've been goofing off for about 5, so... Anyway, so hopefully we get this done. Oh, it's an hour. Well, we'll get the beginning done. So he's going to review an article.
I'm going to take on the special challenge of doing an article review of a man who's been on the show a couple of times and who I like in social settings, but let's just say we're going to have just a little bit of a difference or two when it comes to a published article. So the article is called The Article About Trump Nobody Will Publish, written by James Lindsay and Peter Boghossian. Peter is a professor of philosophy, and James, I think, is a mathematician.
Yeah, as a mathematician that can figure out Trump can't count to 2. Yeah, so you just talk about all the math that Trump doesn't get right. I got $9 billion, I do this, I do that. And you can just do the math, right? He had $2 billion when he went bankrupt. He still hasn't made the money back yet. That's why he's not paying federal taxes, because he hasn't made enough income in the last, 12 years to make back the $1 billion. Math. He's a preposterous, he's an insane fucking liar. And you idiots are going to make him, you're going to reward lying cunts who inherited it, never did a real day's work in their life, and you're going to give them the presidency. That's real merit pay. I mean, you people are just such hypocrites. Earn it, you keep saying. Where did he earn anything? Daddy earned it.
And the article starts like this. Editor's note. This article was rejected by 45 different magazines, periodicals, and journals across the political spectrum. Far left, left, center, unaffiliated, right, far...
Right. You've never done any of that kind of hyperbole, right? You've never said anything when your little conspiracies. You never got, look at the way they're violenting. They're violenting on us. You've never done anything like that. Some sort of hysterical over phraseology. No, you've never been guilty of that.
All right. And
how could this guy be such a hypocrite and get away with it? It's just, people are so fucking gullible.
Libertarian. Really? Guys, you have a tough time getting anti-Trump stuff published in the run-up to this election? Gosh, it seems to be that, when the mainstream media is more than 9/10 negative.
Right, and they haven't even played all the Trump clips from when I was a kid, essentially. Back in the day, all the little moments of Trumpism. Where are all those? When fighting with Ed Koch and such. All the really just stupid statements Donald Trump has made in his life. I mean, he's a Dan Quayle, for fuck's sake.
On Trump, if you're having trouble getting your anti-Trump stuff published, it might not be because you're really, really accurate and radical. Now, listen, it can be that people have a tough time getting out of the public sphere because they're too excellent for the mainstream, or...
Yes, it's probably just because 70% of it's okay, but 30% of it is potentially libelous, and they don't want to get sued, because everybody has to worry about getting sued. And so, yeah, that's one of those regulation things you'd like to get rid of, so nobody has to worry about damages and doing all that kind of crap, and go ahead and poison people and kill them. It's okay. It might just hurt your reputation a little, like that matters in the world we have right now. Right now it doesn't matter. Reputation doesn't mean shit. And you think it's going to protect us from the evil class, the inheritance class. You're such an idiot.
It might be because of the monstrosity we're going to deal with today. So this is how the article starts. Trump!
I mean, I could live without all this way overdone stuff. It just slows the whole process down. So, I mean, maybe all that theater is what you have to do to, entertain the retards that listen to you. But, man, it gets tired.
Is a monstrous choice for president.
I mean, it's like one of those plays that are 3 hours long, where, people are talking about the corn on their toe, and it's all this big drama, and it's about, like, nothing. Like, their money's too wrinkled. Some kind of silly thing. Monstrous!
He's a demagogue with a clear bent to authoritarianism.
Well, obviously, that whole, I'm going to put, another fascist religious kook on the Supreme Court, that sounds kind of totalitarian. I mean, religious fundamentalists are totalitarian. That's what they are. About all the wrong things. No totalitarians for the inherent privilege. No, sir. They get to do anything they want. But the poor people? No, you're going to get fucked. Yeah, you don't even get a lawyer under your, great system.
All right. Out of the gate, we have...
all this is really...
ad hominems and adjectives and negativity and...
Right, you've never, like I said, you've never done any of that. You've never compared somebody to Pol Pot because their name is Potty.
So for those of you who may have studied philosophy at one time or another, generally you start with definitions.
Yeah, nobody in your audience could possibly have done that. Just, they couldn't have studied anything ever, realistically, because they're just knee-jerk buffoons, knee-jerk baboons.
And proof, right? So you need to define...
technically baboons have like 4 knees, so they're even jerkier, sort of.
And your terms, and you need to provide proof for your assertions. So, jumping over to...
Well, he hasn't even started his asserting yet. So I guess the proof will be somewhere else in the article, maybe.
Wiki, we say, okay, he's a demagogue. And that's just one of these vaguely negative terms that's like generic Hitler, right? It's the vaguely negative.
Right, and you've never done that generic Hitler thing. You've never compared somebody who's like for, hey, we shouldn't let people die on the streets, and compare them to like some kind of fake Mother Teresa or something.
Negative term that people apply towards people they don't like. And authoritarianism. I don't know. I mean,
yeah, well, that's sort of the pattern that's written all over your face. And your buddy Alex Jones. I mean, you people don't give a shit about preposterous exaggeration. So what is this complaint? It's just so weaselly. If this is all you've got, oh, he called Donald a bully and a creep. Oh.
Donald Trump wants to significantly reduce the size and power of the state, wants to bring troops back from overseas, wants to reduce taxation, simplify taxation, reduce the tyranny.
Right, he doesn't want to reduce taxation, simplicity, any of that shit. None of that shit's in his policy. His policy is give the rich the biggest tax cut ever. The richest people in the world who've done the best over the last 40 years, the most privileged people on earth, give them a huge tax break. People who do the least amount of work, give them the hugest tax break.
Of the IRS and its incredible maze of taxation and regulation. He wants to reduce regulations. He wants to lower corporate tax.
Right, and his own party isn't going to let him do any of that, so what's the point? He's running as a Republican. I want to get rid of blah, blah, blah. Yeah, right, sure. That's their deductions. The regulations aren't about collecting taxes. They're about evading taxes, retard. Man, you're stupid. I mean, his original plan was, let's get rid of bracket creep by cutting the brackets from 7 to 4. Because that won't make the brackets even creepier, huh? I mean, yeah, that's back when he didn't think he was going to be president, so he didn't have to have any kind of rational policies, because he was just doing it for, get his name in the paper. And now that he's kind of stuck with the job, he's adding some details, but they're not rational.
Taxes, which will add to people's income because the corporate...
No, well, you'll just make the rich richer. They'll lend the money to more poor people. The immigrants are still going to be letting in, and they'll lend them the money that they got from the tax break, and it'll do no other value. It will just create more debt and more ownership by the rich. So bravo, asshole. I mean, you really are such an asshole. You're such a creepy motherfucker. I mean, this defending inheritance cunts. I mean, it's just so disgusting. If you were defending even Romney or something, almost as self-made, and but we know that nobody's really self-made. They just get lucky. Lots of people do lots of good things in the world, and it just doesn't work out. And this idea that you give so much privilege to so few for so little, how do you sleep at night, thinking that's some sort of ethic you should be preaching on the internet? The ethic of your genetics count, everything else doesn't matter. Guys, you're just such a fucking creep.
Nations won't be paying part of their income in taxes. He wants to give people more control over their own money.
Well, again, it's not people, it's the rich. He's not going to give people a fucking thing but a fucking headache.
And he wants to stop
all kinds of other miseries too, because he's going to deregulate everything, so you're going to be eating pesticides all over the place, and you're not going to know what the fuck's in your food.
These endless wars.
See, because he can afford to buy the expensive stuff, you see, where they have to kind of guarantee their name is based on the quality of their product, and they can't be making people sick. But the rest of the companies, well, they don't care about that shit. They just care they don't get sued.
And all of these kinds of things. He wants to give people more choice in healthcare by allowing...
Oh, yeah, that's right. By allowing more... People have more choices by having less subsidies. I mean, really. So, yes, get rid of the healthcare thing, and that just means that you're not going to subsidize anybody, and that means the rich will have health care, the poor won't, and then people in the middle will have something very expensive that'll ruin them. And you're not going to offer them anything else than that. That's the package. Sell your house so you can survive cancer and live in a ghetto. Great.
And more competition across freight.
Thanks. You're my hero.
Like state lines from healthcare insurers and so on.
Yeah, well, the whole insurance thing really just doesn't work, because the only thing they're insuring for are things like, now especially, you can have genetic history. You know, is that what you want? You want insurance companies that profile your genetic history and fuck you because you have, bad genetics? I mean, I'm for limits on how much health care an individual can suck up, but this idea that we're going to pretend that you want real insurance companies doing real equations like, you're sickly, fuck you, we're not going to insure you. And that's what will happen. So anybody with any pre-existing condition, everybody's just going to say, why would I insure somebody that's already got their 4 of their small toes in the grave? Why would no rational insurance company would mess with that if they had the right to say fuck that. And under the current system, there's no socialist reason that the insurance companies were included in Obamacare. The only reason why they're there is to placate the rich and the capitalists. Your people. There wouldn't be. They're not doing anything. The insurance companies are just taking a cut. Okay, and that's all they're providing. All they're providing you is some stupid package that gives you, well, you can have package A or package B. Let's see. Package A gives you 5 more days in the hospital, but you pay more for your prescriptions. And package B, well, you pay less for your prescriptions, but you don't get to stay in the hospital very long. And that they're taking a cut for that. So, that's not because the liberals and the socialists demanded that insurance companies be included. No, it's because your kind said, we have to let the lazy capitalists, the owners of the insurance companies, steal some more free money without doing any fucking work. You fuckhead.
Authoritarian? I don't know what that means. I don't know what Peter and James mean by it. Why? Because they don't...
So I hasn't read any of the article yet. I mean, there's just not one piece of it yet.
Don't provide any definition of the word demagogue, authoritarianism, meanie poopy pants. I don't know.
Okay, so you don't know what authoritarianism? I mean, you're always complaining about fascism, and you don't understand that it's connected to that? Crazy person?
Along the same continuum.
Scalia, fascist, religious, bigoted fascist who wished to impose his ideology on everyone else and expected everybody else to believe what he believed, which was you can eat a lot of donuts and not die of a heart attack. Yeah.
So according to Wiki, a leader, right, a demagogue, a leader in a democracy who gains popularity by exploiting prejudice and ignorance among the common people.
Yeah, that seems pretty close. Yeah, somebody just, does the pigeonhole thing, the profiling thing, the let's not bother, merit and all that kind of stuff. We'll just put him in a class. He's 5'8", so he's a short guy, so fuck him.
It's a good thing no one on the...
Or let's say, somebody's got some serial killer's got a name like Hunkelfinkel. And, we'll just go after all the people who have any inkles in their names. And I'll make people happy because they'll think we're solving the problem of the homicidal murderer because we went after the inkles.
The Democrat side has ever exploited prejudice and ignorance among the common people, I don't know, by race baiting, by class baiting, by gender bait.
Well, whatever. Now you're going to say all kinds of baiting are the same. I mean, class baiting. You're saying class isn't a real issue, especially when class privilege isn't earned. So there's gold medals handed out for no other reason than you fall out of a convenient, vagina. And that's baiting if you sit there and argue, well, that doesn't sound like fairness. And if you argue about some sort of systemic problem that exists based on the fact that we imported people from their country, brought them here, abused the fuck out of them, gave them no culture, gave them no education, and their culture degraded into something you don't understand now, and therefore you have a right, it's baiting to say, hey, wait a minute, you don't really have a right to judge them based on the monster you made out of them. Okay, you don't educate your child will be an idiot. Whose fault is that? Is that the kid's fault? No. It's not baiting to bring that up, to point out the facts. I mean, I know you don't really like facts, but yes, they're kind of essential to understanding and not being a demigod.
Ooh, we've never seen any of that coming from the left. Whipping up the passions of the crowd and shutting down reasoned deliberation.
Well, where has that happened recently? Again, so the left has been silent on almost every important social issue there is. The left has just been silent. And there are people making some noise, or little wackos here and there who, are doing some kind of query thing in schools or something about political correctness, or they get hysterical about bullying or some other bullshit. But as practical legislation goes, there's almost been no peeping at all.
Whipping up the passions of the crowd and shutting down reasoned deliberation.
Right, just more tax cuts for the rich. I mean, here the left gave us this great. They did such a great work for the working people, and increasing the gas tax and trading it for inheritance tax relief. Yeah, that was just such a great bargain we got from the lefties. Yeah, sorry. I mean, I don't know what you're complaining about. Oh, I guess it's just one of these canards. Like, even when you're winning, you pretend like, we're really struggling here. And, it's like the rich, complaining about how terrible the economy is. We're getting filthy rich here every day. But everything's just horrible and terrible and awful. And, we're struggling. But, we're getting richer at a rate that's never been exceeded in all of human history. We're getting rich so fast. But, everything's just so terrible. The socialists are ruining. It's a joke. It's just pitiful. Who falls for this? Oh, yes, that's right. The idiots who watch morons like you. Newspicker.
That's a demagogue. So, I don't know. Racist, sexist, homophobic, whatever phobic.
Yeah, well, whatever. Like, all these subjects aren't individual subjects that shouldn't be jumped into the same category. And yes, some of them are really kind of messy. This whole who goes in what bathroom and such. It's all kind of messy stuff. But the one about, like, did Donald Trump earn his millions of dollar head start? No. He didn't do anything of merit to earn it.
I mean, we're whipping up the passions of the crowd and shutting down reasoned debate.
Well, so reasoned debate means you don't pay any attention to any kind of idea that control of our economy should be given to people who earn it. And instead, we should just let people inherit it. And even though we don't do that in any other way, we don't let bus drivers inherit, the sons of a bus driver don't get to inherit the bus driving license. The son of a plumber doesn't get the plumbing license, unless he knows how to plumb. There's no other place in our economy and sports and anything where we say it's okay to just give it to that guy because family. Nowhere. Because it's totally irrational. Right? But do you pay any attention to that rational argument that this seems kind of crazy? The most important battle for your survival, the most important element of it. How you will have access to your piece of the economy. And we rig the race.
Trump's supporters are in a basket of deplorables, or call a basket of deplorables, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, what's wrong with that? I mean, you could use a lot worse language like ignorant fucks. I mean, I think you belong in a basket called lying, ignorant, manipulative fuckface. You prefer that? Okay. I don't mind. I won't use deplorable. I'll say evil cunt. Evil, skanky, diseased cunt.
So, how do you apply demagogue to Trump, say, and not to the left?
Well, I mean, it's kind of obvious, okay? We should just go through all the things that Trump has done and said and how clearly bigoted and stupid they are. I've done lots of business with the Asian peoples. You know, everybody's a color or an ethnicity. You know, he has no sense about how to have a conversation about any of it with any kind of empathy for their circumstance. What else can be said? You know, and just on every subject, he has this simplistic nonsense. We're behind in the nuclear, when it's not true.
Don't know. Anyway,
So camera failure and such. Battery ran out. So summing up. Yuck. Yeah, also so horrible. You know, everybody sucks and everything's just horrible. But, you know, I gotta suppose it's a bright side of some kind. Like, you know, when things get terrible, then you're grateful for the improvement whenever it shows up. So that'll be good. So certainly be some sort of better after the horror. But, yeah, I don't know. I have the sense that I have lived longer than would have been a good idea. Yeah, not that any of it's a good idea. But anyway, enough of a video. Sorry. Should have summed up with something optimistic and, you know, but that's not my style, really. Not my nature. Probably not the right word to use. Yeah, people just say stupid, you know, so, you know, I could do comments, but, you know, somebody left a comment. One cannot compare meat eating to substance addiction. As a species, we are scavengers. I still don't, there's just no, you can't make any sense of this scavenger thing. I mean, we're totally repulsed, naturally, by even the sights of rotting flesh, let alone the smells of it. We didn't scavenge anything. So yeah, unlike other simians, we learned how to eat lots of other kinds of things, and we did that with fire. So unless you're going to say that we were, you know, we naturally spawned fire, you know, I mean, obviously that's an intelligence thing and a modern thing, and it's the kind of thing that can be judged as an invention. You know, it's like inventing AIDS or something. I mean, it's not a good invention. Bludgeoning animals to death and eating their flesh is, it's not a good invention. Anyway, it's just so stupid to try to make this again into some sort of natural argument. And, you know, the fact that we can, the only comparison was that they're both things you can live without, you know. And it's proven that you can live a full and complete life without drugs or meat. It's true. And it's just silly to say there's something missing. There's just no evidence of anything missing. So it's just a rationalization for being an asshole. Another jackass. It's got an icon that's like a snake or something. So what do you expect? Anyway, enough of that. So, you know, just do what I'm doing, and another week will pass, and you know, hopefully I'll avoid Titanicking or something, and can just sail in the direction I'm sailing without, you know, I don't expect things to get wonderful, but I just don't want them to get worse. So I can hope, but there's no way to make a deal for anything. No way to guarantee or insure anything. So just live in this vulnerability, and that's okay. Most people just, oh yeah, that's just fine. Just roll dice every day. No, it's not for me. Sorry. Fuck that. Yeah, fuck the assholes who think it's acceptable to keep farting people into this broken civilization. Yeah, on this very broken planet. Anyway, enough commentary. Well, it'll do. And, so, yeah, whatever. Till next time, blah, blah, blah. I have to write the song and such. So forth.